it's Kiara from your organizational behavior class, and this is our first assignments with multicultural cultural interactions. So here are some of my personal cultural interactions that I have had actually in the past, only the past 2 years. So I am on the Philippines women's national team for soccer. We just ended our campaign for the World Cup, so I have just came back from World Cup about a month ago. So everything's died down. I'm back home in Australia. So yeah, so being on the team actually allowed me to travel all around the world within the span of a year. So I have been to almost every continent except for Africa and of course Antarctica. I'm definitely blessed with what I have been given, and hopefully can continue it. So some of the interactions I've had were in Vietnam, India, of course the Philippines, and in Turkey. I can name a bunch more, but these are the ones that I feel that definitely would I would like to say would have a culture shock. So going to different countries, it was definitely difficult to think and act locally in the beginning when we first arrived because the environment was definitely different to the ones we were used to, and we were also primarily there for soccer and not to really interact. So I did break down my interactions by social class, language barrier, and the differences in culture. So some of us on the team definitely were more open to learning about the different culture and tried our best to interact with the local population with what we were allowed to when we were allowed to, which was on our walks before our games, on our recovery days, or even on our bus rides to and from trainings and to and from games. And even during the game or after the games when we would interact with everyone, all the fans that came out. So I did go to Vietnam last, I believe, spring. I went there for what they call SEA Games. It's pretty much the Olympics for Southeastern Asian countries. So the language barrier was everyone there did speak very little English. So we did have to have an interpreter. So the social class, we were staying in a city called Cam Pha most of the time, and we would just drive to different parts of Vietnam, no more than an hour. Most of the city was in poverty, but everyone we encountered on our walks, we're so happy and grateful for the life they were living in. Big differences in culture were the biggest differences in culture were definitely probably in Vietnam. The food. Um, I actually tried jellyfish salad. I was probably the only one on my entire team and the staff that would have it regularly every day. It was amazing. I actually really liked it. And I actually had real Vietnamese coffee from Vietnam, which was amazing. I also had pho, but I've had pho before in like the States. So it was pretty cool having or eating food that one I've never tried before and two where it actually came from. So the population was another difference for me. So there, the biggest thing was that children were very independent, but would still rely on each other rather than their parents. They worked in businesses, either their own or their families, and they would mostly sell items on the street to make some sort of income. So another country I went to was India. So we did go there in the middle of COVID, so we weren't allowed to go outside of the hotel, and we were actually barely able to interact with each other within the hotel. So we all had our own rooms, and when we had meetings, we had to have like double face masks on, and most as much as we can apart, like 4 feet apart, even though these should be 6 feet. So the language barrier wasn't as bad as Vietnam because we were only exposed to a very few people that were allowed to interact with us, and they understood English and spoke it as well. Social class, from what I could see from my hotel, from the hotel view, as well as when we go on bus rides, it was very similar to Cam Pha, but as Cam Pha was, everyone was happy and very grateful for what they had. And I thought that was also a big culture shock for me because in the States, I feel like the population here is always wanting more and always want the best. They want the most expensive things and so forth. Um, so one difference in culture to me was the food. I had genuine curry for the very first time, which was amazing. So the first time I've had curry was in India. I've also had naan, which is like a bread like consistency. Kind of, I could say it's like pita bread, but a bit thinner. I actually had a lot of that with some tea, and I would pair it with curry most of the time. Um, a lot of foods actually did have spices, even if it wasn't curry, if it's something else like a rice dish, it had always had spice, some sort of spice. So I would have a little bit of everything because I'm not the biggest fan of spices, but it was still very good. One other country that I have been to is Turkey. We stayed in a city called Antalya. I never know if I'm pronouncing that right. It is known for it's a tourist area, tourist city. It's known for their beautiful resorts. So the picture that I use is actually the actual resort that we stayed at. It's called Hotel Spice Spa and Hotel Spice and Resort, something like that. And it was beautiful. Obviously, you can see how big it looked. I felt like I was in a castle, and I pools were absolutely enormous. We weren't allowed to go in it, but it was great to sit next to. So the social class, it was obviously a lot of higher class Europeans, and it is known with the Europeans, like they're very cocky about their money, and they think that they're better than everyone if they have more money, if they think they have more money than the other. And I actually, when I was on the beach, one of my off days, I was reading by the beach and happened to like leave my sunglasses by my book. I turned to get some water and I turned back and my sunglasses were gone. And I was like, well, there goes my good time. So the language barrier, spoke little English, but enough to communicate the simple things like directions and like food and where I needed to go. So and like stores. So that was really cool. With the food, there's a lot of different olives and cheese, and I'm a big fan of cheese. So that was very amazing. And the staff weren't really like super strict on the cheese thing because a lot of them eat cheese as well. So I loved it. Um, Seafood is also very popular. I would only get smoked salmon out of the seafood, but any other seafood I kind of stayed away from because our staff was a bit more strict on that because they didn't want us to get food poisoning because a lot of us did have weak stomachs. And then there's new desserts that aren't familiar in the U.S. So one of them is actually Turkish delight, which is what I put in the picture below. I did sneak a bit of Turkish delight. We weren't allowed to have dessert, but I had some before the staff came in. Flew into Turkey. Um, I'm not a big fan of it. It kind of reminded me of like really old or like really warm gummy worms, and I don't really even like gummy worms. So, but I liked it. I've seen it when I would watch Narnia growing up, so I thought that was so cool. I was able to try Turkish delight in Turkey. So when it comes to these interactions and improving, I think I did pretty well. I'm always open to learning about a new culture in general because I know it pushes me outside of my comfort zone. Because personally, I am a very, very introverted person. I like to stay in my own area. I don't really like to go out, just kind of like staying in my room with just my own little area. And I am a very picky eater, so the most challenging thing for me was trying the new foods. I tend to always stick to what I know, but I have pushed myself to try at least one native food anywhere I went. So with Vietnam was jellyfish salad, with Turkey was Turkish delight, and with India was the naan and curry. I think with the things that I could have done better, I definitely wanted to try basic greetings in their native language because I feel like the effort that people put forth when it comes to communicating and even to understand the culture, and even though it might not be right, I definitely think they would have appreciated it because I'm trying to connect with them in a deeper level, and it shows a lot of effort. So I thought that was amazing. I think that is something that I definitely would like to do because I've learned bits and pieces of Tagalog, which is a native language in the Philippines, and being what they call the idol in the Philippines, being on the team, definitely I love connecting with the fans as much as I can, and learning Tagalog coming from the US is I think think that's their favorite part. Not only do I play the sport, but I can relate to them in a deeper level because they are looking up to me as someone that they want to be themselves. So with enhancing global perspectives as a leader, as stated in my previous slides, getting to know individuals in a deeper perspective, it can definitely heighten the relationship I could have with them as a leader. So learning about their culture and respecting any tradition that they have and try to incorporate it into their work environment so it shows that I'm eager to learn. I want to understand what they have grown to understand. Um, so taking the time to learn about my peers can strengthen the organizational environment, and production will increase as well. So one thing I definitely would like to point out is they'll never alienate a new possible hire based on their nationality, their culture, and what they believe in. It's always highly important to always hire any individual because they might have the greatest skills that could help benefit the business. So yeah, thank you.